Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Beginner Basics, the Fighter, where I'm going to teach you about fighting people as a fighter. Now, the fighter is a really versatile character where kind of the whole thing that the fighter gets is a lot of feats. So as you level up, you can take many different things for your character, which will then allow you to really customize your playstyle, but also pretty much use any weapon type you want. It also means the fighter is very good at multi-classing, as if you decide you want to play, let's say, a cleric or a sorcerer or some other character, but they don't quite have access to as many feats that the fighter gets, and you want to get certain melee or range style abilities, the fighter allows you to capitalize on that very easily. So let's talk about the fighter and how the stats work. This is going to be for general fighters. Like in DDO, you can make a lot of customizations and change things, but this is going to be general use case for fighter. You want strength. Almost every fighter is going to be a melee fighter using strength as their main attack stat. So strength allows you to deal damage, and it's essential for your character class. On top of that, we have Constitution. Constitution allows you to have more health, and more health means it takes longer for you to die, which is really important when you're playing as a melee character. And then you want a little bit of dexterity and a little bit of intelligence, as the dexterity allows you to get access to certain feats that you're going to need to be taking, which we'll talk about in a bit. And then intelligence gives you access to more skills, and you have a certain small number of skills that you want to have. Now, when it comes to your stats, one of the things that fighters have the weakest on is their saving throws. Fighters don't have great saving throws outside of fortitude, so if there's a poison or disease, you're probably going to be fine. But your reflex saves and your will saves will suffer. So when you're finding gear or looking at equipment, you're going to want to look for things that bump these things up, or maybe find some magic that helps shore up those areas. But your armor class, fighters usually wear armor. They have good armor class, and they tend to have good resistances as well. Now, when we actually look at the skills, fighters can get access to so many different skills. We only need 3. Number 1 is use magic device, which is used for accessing different types of magical items later on in the game for healing yourself and others, resurrection, and that sort of thing. Tumble, which allows you to use your tumble skill in combat to give yourself a defense boost. And the jump skill. Now, tumble might seem really weird because you have heavy armor and you have a shield, but if you just put points in your tumble skill, and then as you get other items, maybe you get a tumble item, a dexterity item, things like that, it will be positive enough where when you decide to use a tumble, if you notice it says dodge chance 3% here, when I tumble, even though I'm in heavy armor, it gives me an extra 50% to 53. So it is still useful to be able to use tumble to keep yourself out of a bad spot. Now you're going to notice my fighter actually has nothing in their hand. I have no weapon whatsoever. So we have to fix that. This character and the character build I'm designing for you is a dwarven fighter designed to use a dwarven war axe with a shield. That is the whole point of the character. So if you don't have a dwarven war axe, I'm going to show you where you can get one. If you're in the harbor, which is just past the starting area of Korthos, once you finish Korthos, you can come here. Or even before you finish Korthos, if you just talk to the guy at the docks, he will take you here. You will see that there is the Hammer and Chain. The Hammer and Chain is a shop in the northwest corner of the harbor, so I'm just going to quickly walk over there and buy myself a weapon. Now, as I said, this character is designed to use dwarven war axes specifically, and there's actually a reason as to why you want to do that, and that is combat styles, which I'm going to explain here once I get my weapon. So inside the Hammer and Chain, you can see there's all the different weapon vendors. I'm going to go to the melee weapon vendor and buy myself a dwarven war axe right here. And then we're going to put that in our hand so we actually have a weapon. So why do we want a dwarven war axe? What's so special about this weapon? You see, combat styles are a thing in Dungeons & Dragons Online where you can have your character fight in a certain way, and it is a huge element of how this character is going to function. There are many different combat styles: 2-weapon fighting, 2-handed fighting, shield fighting, and in this character, you're actually going to be taking a combination of 2-handed fighting and shield fighting. Because while you need a 2-handed weapon to use 2-handed fighting, the Dwarven War Axe actually counts as a 2-handed weapon even though it's only in one hand. And 2-handed fighting gives you a stat called Strike Through, which gives you a chance to hit another target. So normally, if you have a Dwarven War Axe in your hand, you have a 20% chance to not only hit the guy in front of you, but also somebody next to him. That's awesome. With 2-handed fighting, that gives you an extra 60%, meaning 80% of the time you're going to be hitting 2 targets. And as you get higher, like improved 2-handed fighting, this goes to 110%, which means you always hit 2 targets, and sometimes, an extra 10% of the time, you hit 3 targets. And so as a result, you're going to want to be able to use a Dwarven War Axe the entire time. So that way you can still use a shield, as shields give you a lot of defenses. Specifically, shields are an extra item in the inventory, so they can just have defensive stats on it. Shields give you more of their shield bonus to armor class, raising your armor class. And on top of that, shields give you more physical resistance rating, which reduces the damage you take from all sorts of attacks. It gives you magic resistance rating, reducing the amount of magic damage you take. And if you have a shield equipped, anytime you get hit by something that requires a reflex save that does damage, like a fireball, a blade trap, or something like that, your shield just says, oh, double your defense against those things. It's the reason why when you're watching a movie and the dragon starts their fire breath, someone with a shield kind of raises it in front of them. It's really good defensively, and so you want to do that with this character to have the most amount of success, allowing you to have both area of effect while you're attacking targets, but also have the shield equipped to keep yourself alive. But let's talk about attacks for a second. How do attacks work? So, in your inventory, you can see I have this little menu down here. It's this little details menu. You got to pop it out. This gives you your combat stats. So I can see I have all these numbers. What do they mean? First, we have the bonus. This is your hit chance. Whenever you attack a target, there's going to be a little dice roll that appears on screen, and that dice roll is going to show up, and it is going to add this number to it to try to beat the enemy's armor class. So the dice roll is at a d20. So actually, I can't even hit myself right now because my hit chance is only 14, but my armor class is 36. So unless I roll a 20, I'm going to miss, which is kind of funny. Then you have the damage of your weapon. I do a d10 plus 8 because that is how much damage my weapon does. Does just a d10 on it. And on the weapon itself, you can see it says here, specifically attack mod and then damage mod. Then weapons themselves also have a critical roll. So what is the number you need to roll in the dice to get a critical hit? And how much damage do they deal if they critically hit? So because this has a 20, it means I only have a 5% chance to get a 20 on a 20-sided dice. And then the times 3 is how much damage can I deal when I critically hit. And it multiplies all of this damage in here. So that's the basics to how you attack. And for the most part, you're just going to be standing here attacking. But fighters are actually very adept at using special moves. When you start a character as a fighter, you're going to start with the trip and the sunder ability already on your bar. So if I have the trip here, I can click it and my guy does like kind of like a spin. He does like a leg sweep and he tries to knock a target down. It says here that there's a balance check negates this effect, and it says DC 10 plus strength mod, and you can see that it says save 15 reflex. So that's what the monster has to make. They have to make a reflex save. It's a 15, and as you get more strength and more tripping abilities, that actually increases this number. In fact, as you level up, the fighter will get a lot of abilities to increase their tactical DCs to make it so that these abilities are harder to resist. But the best part is, remember when I said that you get strike through for using a Dwarven Axe? Well, that applies to the trip. So if I trip somebody, I actually trip 2 targets at the same time. And eventually I'll be able to trip 3 and even more. And it gets more and more powerful. However, you might have more abilities than that. And as you level up, if you follow my build guide, I'm going to be recommending you take several different abilities to help you improve your stats. And those things will go into the feats menu if you get them through level up. So for example, at level 2, my fighter gets the ability Second Wind, which is a button that just heals you for half of your health, and you can use it whenever you want. So even if you happen to be crowd controlled, a monster has you knocked down, you're paralyzed by a poison, you can still use Second Wind, and it'll cleanse almost every effect from you when you get to the higher levels. At the low levels, it's just a heal. But at level 8 or higher, it cleanses blind, confusion, dazed, dazzled, deafened, diseased, exhausted, fatigued, so many things. If you're stunned, you can press Second Wind and break free, and now you're out of the stun. So it's really, really useful for that, especially since sometimes you just want to heal yourself, and you press a button and you heal for 84. It's not too bad. You get these back every time you rest, so make sure you're resting during dungeons to keep your Second Winds up. However, another ability I recommend you take pretty early is Whirlwind Attack. Whirlwind Attack is a 360-degree cleave, so you spin in a circle, and it actually hits twice. It hits at the beginning of the animation and once at the end. You might think it's strange to take this when you have the strike through, but it's nice to have like a good opener where maybe you go in, you trip a guy, and then you press your Whirlwind Attack, and then you do a big hit on everything that's around you. As you level up, you will be getting more and more feats added here, so make sure whenever you level up, if you take something that's an active ability, you want to check your feat tab. Now, I would love to talk about spells, but unfortunately, fighters don't have spells to speak of because they fight people. Instead, they have abilities, enhancements, that they get from their enhancement tree. And the fighter enhancement tree, there are 3 specific kinds. Kensai, which is focusing directly on weapons, Stalwart Defender, which is focusing directly on defense, and Vanguard, which is using your shield as a weapon, a tool to be able to destroy your enemies. This character generally is going to focus on being a Kensai, because Kensai is very, very, very powerful. Then Vanguard as a secondary, because Vanguard gives a lot of good offense and gives you some cool tools that you can use, some special shield-based moves. And then lastly, Stalwart Defender, just for a little bit of defense. So I'm going to start spending some points here and go over some of the main things. Number 1, as a Kensai, you have to pick a weapon focus. Obviously, this is a Dwarven War Axe build, so you have to pick the Axe's focus. Now, there is a special thing in here where if you want to use an exotic weapon, you actually have to pick this enhancement to make sure it fits into the group. So for example, if you pick Heavy Blades and you want Bastard Sword to count as a Heavy Blade, there's actually an extra enhancement to say, oh, I'm a weapon specialist and I can count here. Dwarven War Axe is in that category. However, dwarves get to skip it because it's their axe. So therefore, if you are a dwarf, you don't have to take this point. One of the reasons why we're a dwarf in the first place. Now, one of the most important things you're going to take, and this is probably the best button you're going to get on the whole keyboard, is this button, Action Boost Haste. It's a button where when you take it, if I hit accept here, I can hit this little diamond and it opens up the enhancement sheet so I can take some abilities out, and I get this ability I can put on my action bar. So you'll notice I am attacking, I'm attacking at a regular speed, but I press Action Boost Haste, and look at that speed. It's so much faster. Even the whirlwind attack is faster. It's just fast, fast, fast. I highly recommend Action Boost Haste, and once you start using it, you will fall in love. You can only use this ability 5 times between rests, but don't worry, you're going to get more ways to use it than that. In general, the Kensai tree is pretty straightforward. This specialization line here just gives you flat up damage. You can get extra action boosts, so you can use your action boost haste more often. You can get some dodge and some defense, more tactical DCs to increase the odds that enemies flub against the trip effect that you have here. Crit damage. You have an attack called Opportunity Attack, which just, you press a button, you hit a guy, and you get some more damage, which is pretty cool. You get some extra healing when you drink potions, and a whole bunch of other stuff. And then at the top tier here, you get an attack called Deadly Strike, which guarantees a critical hit. So remember I said you need to roll a 20 to get a critical? Well, now you just need to roll to get a critical, which makes it quite good. On top of that, you also get an ability called a Good Death, which is an execute. So if monsters are low on health, you press a Good Death and it just finishes them off. On top of just getting a huge amount of stats. Overall, the Kensai tree is extremely good for damage, and that's what we're going to want to do with it. However, the Vanguard tree, not only does it give a lot of defense, it also gives a special stat called Secondary Shield Bash. So if I hold down the block key, which is shift by default, and I click my mouse, my character does a shield bash. However, I don't want to be shield bashing all of the time because I want to use my weapon to attack people. The shield bash doesn't do as much. However, if I actually have this shield bash chance, so if I put the points in here, then all of a sudden when I attack, sometimes my character will make a shield bash. You'll hear it as like a whoosh sound if it plays. If it plays. 10%. Uh-oh. You'll have more than this, but for display purposes, I was hoping it was going to go off. There it is. Remember, guy just like does the shield on the side there. That's just going to give you free damage. You might not think it's very good because shields might not be good weapons, but as you get higher levels, shields are actually the hardest hitting weapons in the game, hitting harder than two-handed weapons. So the free shield bashes are actually just really, really nice, as it's some extra damage that you apply in there. And on top of that, you get shield moves. And the cool thing about the shield moves that you get is you can use them while attacking. So as an example, you see my character is attacking. Well, I can just press this shield smash button while I'm attacking, and I can still attack at the same time, allowing me to, without breaking my animation cycle, I can still attack while hitting the enemy, and even making a shield bash after that. So I just hit like 3 times back to back. Shield Smash has a really short cooldown, adds a bunch of damage, and makes you more defensive. On top of that, you also get Stunning Shield, which stuns an enemy. This works on every monster in the game that isn't a boss. You can't stun bosses because they're immune to stun, but basically it's just super duper powerful. You're going to want to take that. It is extremely good. And then just a bunch of really good general damage abilities with shields. And then Stalwart Defender is usually just for defense, which is the Stalwart Defense stance right here. This gives you physical and magical resistance rating, which is just reduces the amount of damage that you take. So really early on, you're going to want to take the durable defense here to max that out, and then grab the defense stance. And now, just by having this, my character has a 24 physical resistance rating, so I take 20% less damage from attacks, and a 10 magical resistance rating, so I take 9% less damage from attacks. If I turn on stalwart defense here, then all of a sudden we go up to 49, so I went from 20% damage reduction to 33% basically, and from 9% magic reduction to 25%, or almost 26%. So you get a huge amount of extra stats for only 6 points, and you can get this at level 3. Now, if you don't know exactly how to spend the points, don't worry. In the build guide that is linked below, you'll be able to find a full guide as to where to put your points, how to spend them, and in what order. So that should make that a lot easier for you. But there's a lot of customization. One thing I will point out, just because I think some people might have noticed, is that actually as a fighter, you can use a bow. You can use a crossbow if you want. I believe some throwing weapons are in some of these categories as well. I think like druidic weapons has like darts and things, and there's knives. So if you want to use a ranged character as opposed to a melee character, you definitely can with a fighter. I just wouldn't recommend it as your first try through the game. Now, I will also say, if you don't really like the idea of using a shield, then if you want to follow this build guide, just cut out all the Vanguard stuff and put all the Vanguard stuff into the Stalwart Defense tree with whatever sounds interesting, because you can still use Stalwart Defense as long as you have like armor equipped, so you're fine. And you can just use a two-handed weapon as opposed to the Dwarven War Axe. I just think this method is going to be a little bit better for you overall. Now, let's say you're playing your fighter character and you want some like tools to help you along the way. Where do you get them? Well, first of all, right next to that weapon shop, there's an apothecary. And inside the apothecary, there are potion vendors who can sell you different types of potions to allow you to make your adventures that much easier. Potions of cure wounds, potions of disease and curse removal, blindness removal, as well as potions that can increase your tumble and protection. But if you want a wider variety of potions, you have to head to the marketplace. Now, in the center of the marketplace, just as an offshoot from the harbor, you can find a potion and a wand vendor. The potion vendor will specifically sell you many different types of higher level potions, armor potions like bark skin, attack potions like bless, better cure potions. You can find stat potions. Let's say you haven't found a strength item, you can drink a bull strength potion to get some more strength, as well as the elemental resistance potions. These ones are really good when you're starting out, and I usually buy like 5 to 10 of each and just leave them on my action bar, because sometimes you go into a dungeon and you see something shoot out a lightning bolt and realize, oh, resist energy electric is actually going to be really, really good. So you drink a resist electricity potion and you're all set. However, once you're ready to level up and you want even better potions, you're going to head into House Jarasco and get yourself even stronger potions. As it might seem weird to think that as a fighter, you're going to be guzzling potions down, but remember, fighters have an ability called Liquid Courage, where after drinking any type of potion, they gain a bonus to healing and repair amplification, which is pretty cool. Dwarves get a bonus where after drinking any potion, they get neutralizing poison, removing diseases, and heroism, which kind of falls in line with kind of the archetype of a dwarf chugging a pint. And on top of that, you don't get to cast any spells. You got to get magic some way. And so I can talk to this guy, Quolish Ren, for finally getting access to the highest level potions. We've got Cure Serious Wounds potions. We have potions of heroism, which give you an increase to your attack, skill saves, and skill checks. On top of that, we have haste potions, which increase your attack speed. Remember when I said that you could attack faster with action boost haste? With a haste potion, not only do I attack a little bit faster, so I can already attack faster with just the haste potion, and it has no charges, I just have to have more of them, but I can use action boost haste and it stacks on top of it. And now my guy is attacking like crazy fast. It's huge. So always bear in mind that keeping potions ready is really good for your character and good for your keeping yourself alive in many different types of situations. All right, now I'm going to go over some melee pro tips to help you kind of get through your adventures. So number one, whenever you're dealing with any type of target as a melee character, you always want to know the attacking monster's move set, because if you know when they're going to do certain moves, you can actually dodge those types of abilities, either by tumbling out of the way or by just moving out of the way because you don't want to get hit by them. Some monsters have very devastating attack patterns, so knowing that can be very helpful for you. And positioning is really important in a fight. One of the most important things with regards to positioning is whether you are tanking or not. This character is not a tank, so when you get to the higher levels, I'm talking about like the end game and stuff, one of the most important tips you will ever hear from me is don't stand in front of the monsters. If you're by yourself, you have nowhere to go, it makes sense that you would want to stand in front of the monsters, but if you're in a high level group, you have a guy tanking for you with all the armor class in the world, don't stand next to them, because a lot of monsters hit multiple targets just like you do, and so you're just going to get cleaved down. So if this is the monster right here, if this barrel, and it's facing like, you know, towards the back here, I want to stand behind it and stab it in the back. I don't want to be standing right in front of it. And positioning can be really, really impactful as well. Another way you can use positioning is by balancing certain types of monsters. So you'll notice I have one monster attacking me. These other kobolds can't get to me because I'm kind of just like guiding them to be behind each other. Only the one that's in front is able to hit me. The other ones can't get there. So as long as I'm kind of moving back a little bit and preventing all of them from getting to me, as opposed to just getting surrounded where now all of them can hit me at the same time, if I go backwards, now all of a sudden this one can't hit me. He's just running around. Look at him. He's going in a circle. He's trying it forever. So positioning can be really impactful when you are a melee type character to allow you to overcome different types of things. However, sometimes you want to be in the middle, so you can hit him with the whirlwind attack and actually take everything down all at the same time. Another thing that is important when it comes to fighting enemies is knowing when to use your boosts. Those 3 enemies didn't see a reason for me to use the boost, but now I'm surrounded by enemies. There's like 10 guys. So it's at this point that I want to make sure I'm actually using all of my boosts, trying to take down as many things as quickly as I can, and then once they're all done, we can move on to the next thing. Another important step when you're playing as a melee character is, oh, there's a shaman here. Ignore the other melee guys. Go for the shaman. The shaman is the most dangerous thing in the party. It's going to cast spells. It's going to disable you. You don't have to fight the guys in order. The enemies aren't going to do that. Don't worry about having to wait for enemies to come to you. If you see a guy in the back, that's why we put points in the jump skills. You can jump right over the little guys and get to the enemies that matter in the back. Now, when it comes to knowing your opponent's moves, this is kind of where it comes in handy. For after I dispatch this kobold, the next monster that comes through the door is an ogre. Ogres have a special 1-2-3 combo that if I get hit by it will be very, very dangerous. So I want to be paying attention for what the ogre is doing. So when I see him move in, he's going to buff himself. Sometimes he adds a haste and a rage effect, increasing his damage. And then if I see the combo coming, he jumps. And he's jumping around. He's not doing a whole lot. He's attacking me. No big deal. But then I know he hasn't used it and has like a cooldown. There it is. He went for this like 1-2-3 combo and he got stunned partway through. Ogres, when their rage runs out, they get stunned. So they actually can't do a whole lot. So sometimes you just gotta be careful for different types of monsters. Oh, he's buffing himself up again. No problem. And then where is he not gonna do it? Trying to get this example for the video. There it is, like that, where it goes 1-2-3. That 1-2-3 combo, if you're not paying attention for it, can sometimes just instantly kill you, especially if you're playing on a higher difficulty where there are monsters that are champion type monsters that have a whole bunch of extra stats. You got to be really careful about those, and all, especially if you're lower level, that guy will go 1-2-3 and you're just done. That's a simple example of a monster that can have a dangerous ability to hit you with, but sometimes monsters, especially later in the game, certain types of giants especially, if you see them going for a stomp, that means they're going to knock you down, and by blocking, you can protect yourself from any type of knockdown from a stomp attack. So paying attention to monsters, looking at your screen can help you a lot as a fighter, and sure, ranged characters, spellcasters, they're 20 feet away, they don't have to pay attention to that, but you're a fighter, and you're in the middle, so you got to learn the battlefield and plan accordingly. Now we're going to take a minute and just quickly go over the actual build here that you're going to be able to follow. So remember, this build is in the description, so I'm just going to kind of read it out to you so you can kind of understand what is happening. As far as starting stats, as I mentioned, we want strength, we want con, we need dex for some feats, and we need intelligence for some skills. And these are your skills: jump, tumble, use magic device. At the end, you just have some leftovers, so we put them into swim because there's no real other place for those skills to go. Now, one of the things that gets complicated with fighter is they get a whole bunch of extra bonus feats. You can see these word fighter here. That's every time the fighter gets an extra feat over another character. And so we're just going to use that to make sure we take all the two-handed fighting feats, the weapon focus and specialization feat line, as well as whirlwind attack, getting spring attack, which is kind of like a dash that lets you move really quick, precision, which is a stance that lets you deal extra damage, or have extra hit chance and allows you to critically hit monsters that normally don't have weak points to critically hit, which is good. You get these tactical feats to increase your chance to knock down enemies, which is powerful. And then in the end game, we're picking up extra damage, just general damage, double strike, hit chance, other stuff that moves on. You get an ability called Shield Specialty Mastery, which gives you a whole bunch of shield bonuses at level 31. It takes a little while, but it's still worth it to use the shield before then. As far as your enhancements, as I said, we're going Kensai, Vanguard, and Stalwart Defender. And the actual distribution is you start in Kensai to get the haste boost, you go into Stalwart Defender to get Stalwart Defense, then we pick up a little bit more damage out of Kensai, you go back into Vanguard to pick up Stunning Shield, and then once you have Stunning Shield, that means you can stun anything you want every 15 seconds. You have the Stalwart Defense, so you're really tanky, and you have haste boost. At that point, you just finish out Kensai. You take everything good in Kensai because it gives you a huge amount of extra damage. That's what we're going to do. Then you go into Stalwart Defender, which gives you a ton of extra defense, and then you finish out in Vanguard, taking all the good stuff there, and then you take the top stuff at Kensai once you get to a higher level and it is unlockable. And then lastly, as far as your epic destinies go, something didn't explain well in this video, but don't worry about that. You'll get there when you get there. This character is going to become a legendary dreadnought. They are masters of action, so they actually get more damage while they're in the thick of things. They have a huge bonuses to action boosts. So while you might not have that many action boosts during the leveling process, legendary dreadnoughts actually get an infinite number, so you can keep that haste boost rolling. And they also get a ton of extra damage with their just their melee attacks on enemies that have any type of disabling effect on them. On top of that, they get an ability called Sundering Swings, which makes your trip and sunder attack, these really basic low-level attacks that don't seem like they're super powerful, into extremely powerful, overwhelming things, where Sunder Armor breaks an enemy's armor so far that anyone can critically hit them all the time, even if they're like a robot or an undead, things that are immune, you just get them anyway. And your trip attack causes monsters to take double damage. Very, very cool stuff. On top of that, you go into Fury of the Wild, just picking up some good AoE attacks, as well as getting the improved trip ability, which you need, and then Primal Avatar for some little bit of like nature magic that allows you to keep yourself alive. There's like heals that are built in, as well as getting a massive amount of extra damage added onto all of your melee attacks that also applies to your shield as well. So you get a huge amount of damage added on there, and it's like elemental damage, which is sometimes good. Sometimes monsters will be resistant to whatever type of slashing or damage you're going to be doing with your axe, and so having elemental damage can kind of help even that out, and is something that's really easy to get access to in the end game. Anyways, that's all I have for you today. So I hope all you fighters out there get out there, start fighting. Like I said, if you want to try a different variety of builds, different types of fighters, I have some links to some other fighter builds down below. And if you're like, oh man, you know, this was interesting, but maybe I want to try a different type of character, maybe fighter's not for me, well, guess what? There's a playlist of all of the beginner basic videos that you can watch, and maybe there's another class that you might find more interesting as a way to get started. Anyway, thank you. That's all I got. If you're an expert fighter, please leave a comment down below with some more tips for all the fledgling and beginner fighters out there, and I will see you guys next time. Thank you. Bye bye.